It is just a huge honor to be sitting in the podcast studio with Adam Witty. Thank you so much for coming by. He is the founder and chief executive officer of Advantage ForbesBooks, which he has built into one of the largest business book publishers in America, serving over 1,500 members in all 50 U.S. states and 67 countries. Advantage was listed on the Inc. 5000's list of America's most rapidly growing private companies for 7 years, and named to the best places to work in South Carolina list for 2013, 14, 15, 17. Most recently, Advantage has partnered with Forbes to create ForbesBooks, the first book publishing imprint for the global media company. Launched in 2016, ForbesBook is the next step in Forbes' 100-year history of distribution and innovation in the media business. Utilizing the Forbes multi-platform media network, ForbesBooks offers a cutting-edge branding, visibility, and marketing platform to business authors. In addition, the exclusive imprint gets books to market faster than other top business book publishers. In addition to his work with Advantage ForbesBook, Adams is a sought-after speaker, teacher, and consultant on marketing and business growth techniques for entrepreneurs and authors. He has shared the stage with Steve Forbes, Simmons of KISS. I thought I was Simmons of KISS. Was that not me? Peter Guber and Bobby Bowden. Adam has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Investors Business Daily, USA Today, and more. He was named a Young Presidents Organization 40 and Under, 50 Most Progressive, and was named to the 2011 Inc. magazine 30 and Under 30 list of America's coolest entrepreneurs. In 2012, Adam was selected by the Chilean government to judge the prestigious startup Chile Entrepreneurship Competition. Adam Witty is chairman of the not-for-profit Youth Entrepreneurship South Carolina, where they teach entrepreneurial skills to at-risk youth in every South Carolina public school. He also chairs the Clemson University Spiro Entrepreneurship Institute Board and sits on the College of Charleston Entrepreneurship Center Board. He is an Eagle Scout. Sorry about that. He closed down yesterday.
I know.
2012 Clemson University Young Alumnus of the Year, a member of the Young Presidents Organization, a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization, learning officer for digital media. And I mean, I could go on and on and on. Now, we have a mutual friend. When I first went to the Profitable Dentist seminar of Woody Oaks,
Yep.
The main man, the legend, the guru forever was none other than Dan Kennedy.
Yes.
And that is your buddy.
That is my buddy.
So welcome to the show. Tell us, how did your journey of South Carolina end up running into Dan Kennedy, who, Dan Kennedy, I mean, he's just like the godfather of dental marketing.
Yeah, he's a legend, direct response marketing.
A lot of our viewers are still in dental school and under 30. Mm-hmm. So will you explain who Dan was and what he meant?
Yeah, so Dan Kennedy is one of the pioneers of direct response marketing, probably one of the most gifted copywriters ever to walk this earth. And direct response, for people that aren't familiar with that term, what that means is that every ad you run, there is a direct call to action with an offer and an incentive to respond by a certain period of time. If you open up a magazine, let's say it's GQ magazine, there's a lot of what you would call brand advertisements. So it has a picture, it has a brand name, it has a logo, and that's it. There's no offer, there's no call to action, there's no prompt for you to respond to that advertisement. A direct response is something that's utilized very effectively by small and medium-sized business owners, and that is where every time you run an ad, whether it's online or whether it's offline, there's a direct call to action, which means, Howard, you can measure the effectiveness of every single ad that you run, and you can tell how much you made in new customer acquisition or sale of products from each ad, so you can test what works and what doesn't.
So let me tell you how good Dan was. I remember, this is back in the day, a lot of these people aren't here anymore. Kit Weathers, who had Magic Endo out of Griffin, Georgia, and he started advertising. And when I got the advertisement, I loved him because a direct response advertising, for my type of walnut brain, it was usually a 2 or 3 page letter.
Right.
And I would rather read a 2 or 3 page letter than see, some hot girl next to a car and Nike, just do it, or, something like that. And in that long letter, you could intellectually decide, is this for me or not? But I remember one time I got that, and I actually called. It might have been the first time I ever talked to Kit Weathers. And I said, first of all, I got one major question for you. Did Dan Kennedy write that letter for you? And he just started giggling. And then I hired an in-office consultant to come in my office. Her name was Sally McKenzie. At the time she's in Southern Cal, then Florida. I think she's in Ohio. And I got this letter from her. And the first thing I did is I called her up and said, "Did Dan Kennedy write this letter for her?" Because it was a signature. It was like you say. It was and I think dentists are more like that. Like, I would rather read the Wall Street Journal or the Investor's Business Daily with a lot of content. And then when you switch out to USA Today, it's like a quarter of that newspaper is just photos.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so the Investor's Business Daily or Wall Street Journal, maybe you got 2,000 words, like a Dan Kennedy response. Right. But then you go to USA Today, and it's like, well, we don't have time for all the things you need to know, because we got to get the hot girl in their picture and the big title. So do you think that's a boomer millennial thing? Is that changing, or do the millennials respond to that just like boomers?
No. So I think that the principles of direct response are alive and well, irregardless of the generation, the age that you are, right? So here's the biggest thing with direct response advertising. It's very easy for somebody to see that 2,000 word ad and say, who in the world would ever read that? Well, the person that would read that is the person that's captivated by the headline. And if the headline is a value proposition that's going to solve the problem that you have, you're going to read it. If you're interested in what that company or what that product has to offer, the solution that it can bring to your life, you're going to read it. Now, 90% of the people that flip through that ad or see it, if it doesn't apply to them, they're going to keep going. And those are the people that say, who in the world would ever read 2,000 words? Well, the prospective buyer, the person you're trying to target, if they're interested, they're going to read 2,000 words. And that's what Dan Kennedy recognized that so many people don't, is that good copy and the right target audience. You know, Dan Kennedy says there's 3 pieces to great direct response marketing. There's message, there's market, and there's media. So the message is, what's the compelling value proposition you have to offer your customers? The market is, who is your ideal client profile? The more specific we can get as to who your ideal client is, the better. And then the third leg of that stool is the medium. What's the most effective medium in which you can reach people? So if you're a dentist, is the most effective medium for you to reach your target patient, is it online, is it offline? Okay, if it's online, is it Facebook, or is it LinkedIn, or is it Twitter, or is it Instagram? Well, if you tell me the average age of your ideal patient, I can tell you immediately which of those 4 platforms is going to be a better media for you.
What are the 4 platforms?
So the 4 social media platforms, the major ones, of course, are Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Now, the 5th platform that's a burgeoning platform is, of course, TikTok.
Twitter, Facebook,
LinkedIn,
and
Instagram.
So Facebook and Instagram, that's the same company, Mark Zuckerberg.
That's right.
And you know his dad's a dentist, right?
I do know that.
Yeah, he's been on the show. Great guy. Twitter, I'm always amazed how many people are not on Twitter. They go, Twitter, that's dead. It's like, okay, you know the only reason our president is the president is
because of Twitter.
Is Twitter, because, I mean, it's simple math. I know how he saw that. I mean, at night, there's only 1 million people watching CNN and 3 million people watching Fox News. And I always hear all these people saying, oh, Fox News only 3 million people. He had 12 or 15 million on Twitter before he even got in the race, and now what is he up to?
20, 25, 20,
yeah,
25.
So who cares what CNN and Fox together is 4 million.
They're
who
irrelevant.
Cares? He can send, and then people say, God, he sent 12 tweets the other day. Well, if you could talk to 25 million people while getting a cup of coffee, why not? It seems like in dentistry, if you own the dental insurance company, the manufacturing, if you make everything dentist uses, you're on Twitter and LinkedIn.
Yep.
And if you're a boomer with an AOL account, you're on Facebook.
That's right.
And if you are a millennial, you're on Instagram.
That's right.
And TikTok, my personal problem with TikTok is that So many times I get a security concern message pop up, and I don't know what that is, but it'll be like, you know how it'll say your platform's not secure? It gives me some warning that I should back out. That's happened to me twice. Has that ever happened to you or not really? Or
so I've not had that problem. It's interesting with TikTok, the primary audience of TikTok are teens, right? One of my friends is Dr. Grant Collins. He's an orthodontist in Rochester, Minnesota. And Dr. Collins owns TikTok. He makes some of the most incredible videos. He's getting millions of likes and he has millions of followers on TikTok. Now, you might say, well, gee, an orthodontist, teens, well, what does that matter? Well, these teens, even though they're not the buyer, they are the end user of orthodontics, and they're telling their parents which orthodontist they want to go see. And so for him, it's had an incredible impact on his practice, the use of TikTok, right? Who would have thought?
So I believe that one of the biggest mental errors that people have is they always project themselves on the decision. Like if you're a grandma and you like the IHOP, you don't want to hear about Denny's. It seems like old dentists like direct mail and Valpak and things like that. But if you're born on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, then they have a bad vibe because they'll be in like a retirement community trying to build an implant practice, and they're on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm like, are you sure the people that have dentures are on Instagram and Facebook? But you're coming at this at totally different, where authority marketing.
Yeah.
Your book, Forward by Steve Forbes. How do you score that? That is an amazing man. Autographed by the author.
That's me.
That's you.
Which means that book is now worth half of what it would have been at retail.
So, tell us about your journey. What made you write Authority Marketing, your blueprint to build thought leadership that grows business, attracts opportunity, and makes competition irrelevant?
Yeah, so the big idea is that people buy people, not businesses. And the power of authority brands has never been more relevant in our lifetimes, right? In fact, social media, all the different platforms we were just talking about, have helped fuel the rise of personality-based brands, authority-based brands. And so our belief, and let's use dentistry as a great example, right? So dentistry has all of these external pressures that are forcing it down. You've got, DSOs, you've got the government, you've got commoditization. And so if I'm a dentist and I want to attract high-quality patients, I want to provide high-quality care, and I want to be paid well for it. One of the biggest things I have to think about as a dentist is, how do I place myself in a category of one? How do I not look and feel like every other dentist? How do I not look and feel like a commodity? Because people buy commodities on price.
Explain a commodity to them.
Yeah, so a commodity would be if I go into the Yellow Pages, or if I go to Google and I type in a dentist in Phoenix, Arizona, and 100 different listings pop up. And let's say I go to the first 5 dentists' websites, and they all more or less look the same, very, very cookie cutter. Then because they all look the same, I'm going to probably pick the dentist that's probably closest to my house, or maybe the cheapest service provider, right? So a commodity is, it's readily available, and essentially it's the same anywhere you go. That is a killer if you're a dentist, because I'm going to guess most of your listeners on this podcast, they don't want to compete on price. They don't want to be forced to this race to the bottom of what is the lowest cost service provider you can find. They want to be paid at the top of the pyramid. They want to do really great work, and they want to be paid really well for it. And certainly I realize that insurance can complicate that, but we don't have time to get into that. But the big idea about authority marketing is that you can strategically and you can systematically position yourself and your practice as a thought leader, as an expert in your community. And when you are seen as an authority, a celebrity in some regards, as an expert, it helps differentiate you from all of the other dentists in your community that, quite frankly, look like commodities. And if you don't think that authority can be created, now you've got to know your stuff, but you can create authority. If you don't think it can be created, then you can't answer me how Donald Trump became president. Because Donald Trump, whether you love him or whether you hate him, is a case study, textbook example of the power of authority marketing, right? He wrote a book. It was titled The Art of the Deal in the late 80s.
I read it.
And then he started speaking for the Learning Annex. And then as his brand continued to grow, guess what? NBC gave him a TV show called The Apprentice. And then with The Apprentice and all of the other ancillary opportunities that came from it, his name ID was so high. There's been plenty of billionaires that have run for president before, and they never had any success. So being rich in and of itself doesn't guarantee you success running for president. But if you walked into any schoolhouse in America and said to any kid, name me the most famous business person you could think of, at the time, 9 out of 10 people would have said Donald Trump, because he was on TV. He was larger than life. He was speaking everywhere. He had books. He had, of course, Trump University and all of the other Trump products, whether it's Trump wine or Trump steaks or Trump hotels or Trump casinos. He truly was larger than life. And Donald Trump followed this authority marketing formula, over a 25-year career. So authority marketing can be created and it can be strategically designed. And the argument that I make in my book is that every entrepreneur, every service professional, every professional practice owner, dentists included, can create authority and thought leadership right in their local community.
Well, you're saying, you Google a dentist and they show 50, and if they all look the same, you go, the one near me. Got it. Imagine being an orthodontist where you're competing with not even a human,
Right.
SDC. You come in, get a scan, it goes to artificial intelligence, they mail the trays. How would you have rephrased that if you were talking to an orthodontist? He's competing against, I don't know what he's competing against.
Great question.
Electromagnetic radiation.
So it's funny that you asked me that question, because I flew in today from Palm Springs, where I gave a lecture on authority marketing last week to 800 orthodontists. So I'm very well prepared to answer that question.
Nice.
And as you just said, for orthodontists, their number one concern, what keeps them awake at night, is Smile Direct Club, right?
Yeah.
Now, most orthodontists look at Smile Direct Club as competition. And it is. But let's look at the positive of Smile Direct Club. What Smile Direct Club is doing is it's increasing the size of the market for the number of people that are now open to the idea of, hey, I can fix my smile. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that they're all going to run to the orthodontist. A lot of them are going to run to Smile Direct Club. But what Smile Direct Club is first doing is they are increasing the size of the market. That's a really good thing. Now, if you're a smart orthodontist, you embrace this opportunity rather than resisting the opportunity. And what we say to the orthodontists that we speak to is, now more than ever, being seen as the authority, as the expert, as the thought leader is increasingly important. Because what is Smile Direct Club selling? They're selling convenience, but ultimately, really what they're selling is a very low entry point, a low cost to get your teeth and your smile fixed. And so look, one thing that I learned from Dan Kennedy is that there's only 20% of the market at any one time that is solely buying the lowest price. 80% of the market, they are not sold on it's got to be the lowest price. 80% of the market is they're sold on, I want the best solution for me. And so if you don't give them a reason to pay more, well, they won't. They'll always go to Smile Direct Club if you don't give them a reason to pay more.
I love your points because they're so obvious. Like, dentists say, well, they'll only go because of the insurance. Did your wife buy all the furniture at IKEA? Southwest has the lowest price. They're only 27% of the market.
That's right.
Now, food, it's different. I only like to eat at restaurants if the menu has a picture of the food. That's because it's the IHOP and the Waffle House, so food's different. But yeah, they there's no evidence that they always go for the cheapest price, but all the dentists believe they do.
It is the biggest misconception in marketing is that most people buy on price, and nothing could be further from the truth.
I think they go to price first because they don't know the questions asked. Like if you say I need a root canal, what am I supposed to say? How many canals are in there? What sealer are you going to use? I mean, how much is it?
That's right.
I don't. It's like when I take my car and this guy comes out and he's telling me about my lifters or this or that, and it's like I don't know what a lifter is, but you're wearing a uniform. You've been here for the whole 10 years that I've been coming here.
That's right.
I doubt they'd keep a sociopath for 10 years. And when I first came here, you were single. Now you just had your third kid. I mean, I don't. You say though that there's 4 reasons authority marketing makes growing a business much easier. Mm-hmm. What are those?
Yeah. So the first thing with authority marketing is that it puts you in a category that your peers are not in. So the more authority you have, the more it puts you closer to that category of one, right? So if people are buying on price, then they are making what we would call an apples to apples comparison. In fact, probably some of your listeners have had a prospective patient come into their office for an exam to gather information. And they're gathering information because they're going to compare you to 1 to 2 to 3 other dentists. In their mind, they're doing an apples to apples comparison. Well, whenever you hear apples to apples comparison, it means I'm buying on price. And so the cheapest price is going to win. So with authority marketing, when you position yourself as an orange instead of an apple, well, now you can't be lumped into the same category. You have to make yourself uniquely and distinctly different so they can't compare you. If you're an orthodontist, let's go back to that example for a second. If you're an orthodontist that wrote the book on it, that's been featured on TV and in radio, that writes articles and white papers, that lectures all over the country, I can no longer put you in a category directly comparing you to Smile Direct Club, right? Now, yes, you do the same thing. You help me straighten my teeth, but what you do as an authority is leaps and bounds above what Smile Direct Club does, right? But if the orthodontist doesn't tell you about all of those things, if they don't give you reasons to be comfortable paying more to work with the expert versus just walking into a strip mall and having photographs taken, if you don't give them reasons, then they'll go into the strip mall and have the photographs taken. And most dentists, most orthodontists, because they don't consider themselves business people, you've changed that. But of course, you and I both know that most would much prefer to be scientists than they would business people. A lot of orthodontists, a lot of dentists, a lot of professional practices, they resent the fact that they have to market, right? They almost think that it's beneath them, right? They think, well, I'm a great dentist, so people should just tell all of their friends about it, and my practice should thrive. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And so the most successful dentists, the most successful orthodontists, what they realize is that they're business people, they're entrepreneurs before they are dentists or orthodontists. And these are the ones that understand they're selling value. And so if they can market and position the value that they bring to their patients, they win.
I think the funniest thing when I hear an orthodontist whine, I said, well, you know they're going to wipe you out because you don't do anything at work all day. I mean, when you go, I mean, you didn't do anything. I mean, have you ever gone home from work exhausted and they're like, every day I work hard and I'm tired. And it's like, exactly. That's why you still have a job. You can't do all that with a scan. I mean, if you didn't do anything all day, then yeah, maybe a droid will do it someday, but you just can't sit there and work all day. You say the pillars of authority marketing and the 3 outcomes they create.
Yeah, so when it comes to authority, there's a formula you can follow. And so if we think of authority, I want your listeners for a minute to think about creating an authority coliseum, okay? And if any of you have ever been to the Coliseum in Rome, it was built in 70 AD. So it's almost 2,000 years old.
It was built in
70 AD.
70 AD.
70
okay.
AD.
I'm sorry, your accent. I thought you said 70 80. I'm like, okay.
70 AD. So it's almost 2,000 years old. And the reason I mention that is that if you build authority correctly, it can last for the rest of your professional career. It will stand the test of time. So if we're going to build your authority foundation far and above, beyond anything else, the one thing that will build your authority quicker than anything else is being the author of a book. Writing and publishing a book of your expertise on your topic will create authority very, very quickly. We say you can't spell authority without author. And it's very true. You've written books. I've written books. I know plenty of dentists who have written books, many of them with us, who are the leader in their community. So the book is the foundation of authority. From there, the 4 pillars that support the roof structure of your coliseum. Those 4 pillars are first creating branding and omnipresence. So building your authority brand to make you appear larger than life. And omnipresence is really defined as kind of being seen, being heard everywhere. That doesn't mean you're physically everywhere, but it means you're doing all kinds of things from a marketing perspective where your target customer, Howard, will say, I feel like I've been hearing a lot about you. I've heard your name many times. That's what true omnipresence is. The second pillar in building authority is content marketing. Now, content marketing, of course, is writing and publishing a book. That's content. But beyond that, it's articles, it's blogs, it's white papers, it's this podcast we're doing. This is content marketing. It's speaking. It's creating content that your target customer wants to consume. In this case, for dentists, it's your target patient. And so when people ask, what should I write my book about, or what would I author my content on? The answer to the question I always give them is, what are the 10 most common questions that you get from prospective patients? Answer those 10 questions, and that's your content. In fact, that can be the basis for your book. You have to answer the question that's keeping your prospective customer awake at night. And so if you answer those questions, if you provide your prospective patient that kind of high quality content, they're going to consume it. And the more time they spend consuming your content, the more engendered they become to wanting to work with you. This was a lesson I learned from Dan Kennedy. He said, Adam, don't forget a marketing principle, CTI, consumer time invested. The more time a prospect spends consuming your information, the more likely they are to buy from you. And that's why being a creator of content, even for a dentist, is really, really important. The third pillar is PR and media. Remember this, people don't believe what you say about yourself, but they sure do believe what other people say about you, especially the media. So being featured in a magazine, in a newspaper, being heard on the radio, being seen on TV, these are things that people are really wowed by. People are impressed by. These are things that give you gravitas. These are things that really build your credentials. And the last pillar, Howard, is speaking, right? So when you're invited to speak, even in your local community, you're being invited to speak and share your expertise because you are seen as and viewed as an expert on whatever it is that you're going to speak about. And every dentist that we know that speaks in their community, every time they speak, they get patients as a result of that. So you've got the book as the foundation, you've got these 4 pillars, and then what is the outcome that all of that authority can give you? Well, these are the 3 outcomes that every business owner I've ever met cares about and deeply wants. Number 1, I want more leads. I want higher quantity of leads, and I want higher quality leads coming into my business. Number 2, I want to increase my conversion rate of a lead, in this case to a new patient. And number 3, I want my patients to tell their friends about me, and I want them to get up on the rooftop and shout and scream so all of their friends will come into my practice. The more authority that you have, the more leads you'll generate, both quantity and quality, the higher your conversion rate of lead to patient, and the more likely your patients are to brag about you and tell their friends about you.
And you call this, okay, so your website is advantagefamily.com.
That's right.
And you call this, what do you, you said the Coliseum?
The Authority Coliseum, building your Authority Coliseum.
Building your Authority Coliseum. Okay, I'm just going to play devil's advocate.
Yep.
Here's I know my homies.
Yep.
I mean, my God. They're shy. They're introverts. They're engineers. They're more comfortable. I mean, they're the only guys in their village that know the difference between a cosine and a tangent, and they just don't like attention. And I think a lot of them, to unwind, they like to be alone.
Right.
And it sounds like everything you're talking about is this extrovert TV guy. They're like, dude, that's not me.
Yep.
So what do you say to that guy?
Well, so two things. Number one is this introvertness, to some degree, has been beaten into us by all of our mothers. I'll give you an example. As a kid, my mom told me, Adam, don't showboat. Adam, don't act up. Adam, don't call unnecessary attention to yourself. Adam, mind your manners and follow the rules. So as kids, many of our parents really kind of taught us to eschew the spotlight. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, the second thing, as you mentioned, is, there are a lot of dentists. There are a lot of clinicians that are introverts, right? They're scientists. Look, I'm not telling you that you need to go become the next member of the Kardashian family, and I'm not telling you that you need to go become an extrovert. What I am saying is this: you know a lot. You are an expert. The number of years you've spent in school, in dental school, in fellowship, in residency, the number of years you've spent practicing, you are truly an expert. And if you are not willing to put the crown on your own head, crown yourself king or queen, if you don't do it, one of your competitors will. And in this free marketplace that we live in, the best man, the best woman, really, Dan Kennedy would want us to tell you, the best marketer wins. And so this really isn't about doing what you're comfortable with. This isn't really about doing what makes you feel good and be in your comfort zone all day. This is about, how do I grow my practice? How do I increase my net income? How do I make business easier? Well, marketing is a part of that. And the more authority you have, the more effective all of your marketing does. Now, again, let me say one more thing. To write and publish a book, you don't have to put a big spotlight on yourself. You can share your insights and your wisdom, publish it, and share that. Now, marketing a book, you might feel like you're shining that spotlight on you. But again, if you don't do it, somebody else is. And the biggest reason that people shy away from this is because every one of us, deep down inside, we have this feeling to some degree that maybe we're an imposter, that maybe we're going to be found out, that maybe we're really not as smart as we think we are. And so a lot of us are unwilling to go down this path of authority marketing because that fear sits inside of us, deep down inside of us. Well, look, the world belongs to the aggressive, to the entrepreneur that's willing to take risks, to take chances, and that's willing to shine that spotlight on them. And if you want to have the most successful practice in your community, you've got to be willing to do those things. Now, if you're okay with a small practice, with a mediocre practice, if you're okay with a small net income, then don't do any of this. But what I'm speaking to are people that ultimately want to be a leader in their community, that want to have a thriving practice. And to do that, you've got to accept the mantle of authority. It's part of the job.
Or if you got divorced, then you really need authority marketing.
Yes, you do.
Oh, man. You know what I always think about marketing? I always think, man, it's not as hard as you make it think, because I fell for the I think I was in I know I lived in Rutana, which I think it was in the 6th grade, but I actually paid money for the see-through glasses in the back of the comic book. I put the money in the envelope and I mailed it in, and I waited, and turns out they didn't work. And do you remember that ad?
I do remember that.
And that was that a would you say Dan Kennedy would have approved of that ad?
Dan Kennedy would have definitely approved of that ad, without question.
Well, hey, guys, So what is your call to action? Where do they get Authority Marketing by Adam Witty with a forward by Steve Forbes?
So we've got a great offer for anybody listening to this podcast. They can get a free copy of the book. All they do is pay $6.99 for shipping and handling, and we mail them the book to their front door. They visit authoritymarketingbook.com, and they can get a free copy.
Let me get. Are you getting this, Kyle? We'll put. So they go to authoritymarketingbook.com.
That's right.
So I love the fact how you're getting a measurement.
We're getting a measurement.
So authoritymarketingbook.com, and if you go to that website, okay, here I am at so that switches over to advantagefamily.com.
Right, so it's a landing page.
Right, it's a landing page. And then what do they do there?
And then on that page, there will be an offer where you can request a free copy of the book. Simply pay shipping and handling, and we'll mail it to you.
Very, very good.
And certainly, Howard, anybody that wants to buy the book on Amazon.com, they can do that. It is available also on Amazon through Audible. So if anybody prefers to listen.
So do you see a difference in boomers wanting to read and millennials like an audio, or are you seeing audio over print?
So audio's huge. The power of the spoken word is like growing exponentially. About 30% of our sales are audiobook. 70% are physical book or ebook.
Okay. Interesting. I'm 57. My 4 boys turned into 5 grandkids, and I still do the book thing.
I'm with you. I like the physical book too.
Yeah, I like the book thing. But I know you have to run. Tell Dan Kennedy, thanks for being a legend. I saw him several times. He built a lot of great companies. Kit Weathers, Endo Magic comes to mind. Sally McKenzie comes to mind. Just an amazing guy. But the new dentist of the day, learning how to do a root canal is not enough anymore, is it? You got to wear several hats, and one of them's got the business on it, doesn't it?
Oh, my goodness. If a dentist coming out of school today commits to be an entrepreneur and business owner first and a dentist second, then the world is their oyster. But if you're unwilling to do that and want to stay in your box and think that I'm a dentist and all the business stuff will just figure itself out, you're in for a rude awakening.
Final question. Some people are saying that older people like myself, they wanted to own a business and be an owner-operator. But the next generation, they don't want to be owner-operator entrepreneurs. They just want to be employees. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that?
I don't. I think that there is a segment of people, there's a large segment of people that will never want to be entrepreneurs. They don't want the responsibility. They don't want what they perceive as the headache and the stress that comes from it. But I'll tell you what, I've done a lot of research on Gen Z, and there are a lot of demographers that are predicting that Gen Z will be more impactful in a positive way than the greatest generation. And the appetite that Gen Z has for entrepreneurship and business ownership is large. And so I feel really like, of course, as a country, but entrepreneurship in general around the world, I think our best days are still well ahead of us.
Yeah, and one last thing on the podcast is a form of authority, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I've had several guests. We've had this show for 4 years. And I run into some of my friends who came on the show, and they were talking about implantology or whatever. Well, later, some patient's Googling for implantology and finds out that one of the guys from her town is on this third person endorsed, this national podcast.
Yep.
And I mean, there's one guy, and he's like, dude, I've had 10 people in the last 2 years get in an airplane and fly to my office, and they probably flew over 1,000 other dentists who could do the same procedure just because I was on your show. So just like you said, so he was on the show telling you how great he was. He was on another show that was not in his town, a national show, which showed that he was
absolutely
had authority.
He had breadth, right? He's reaching people around the world. And to your point, if everybody buys on price, no one would ever get on an airplane to go to a dentist. But there are tons of examples of people that will get on an airplane to go to a dentist, to an orthodontist, a chiropractor, a plastic surgeon, you name it. And it's because they believe that person truly is the best. and they'll do whatever it takes to have the best.
And my ophthalmologist right here in Phoenix has a world map in his office, and he has, there's just pins everywhere. Because when people start thinking, oh my God, I'm going to lose my sight, they immediately get on a plane and fly across the ocean. They don't even care. But I know you want to run, so I'm going to free you up. But thank you so much for coming on the show. And if you're ever in Phoenix again and want to do it again, come back and we'll do it again.
What a great pleasure. This has been so much fun.